Hey everyone, picture this. A tiny little bakery tucked away in a quiet town, the kind of place where the smell of fresh bread hits you the second you walk in. That's Sweet Haven, my pride and joy. My name's Emma Carter, I'm 34, and I've spent the last 10 years busting my butt to make this dream come true. I'm a baker, not the fancy TV chef kind, just a regular girl who loves turning flour and sugar into something people smile about. After a decade of slaving away in restaurant kitchens, dodging rude bosses and late-night shifts, I finally saved up enough to open my own spot. Sweet Haven isn't just a business. It's my heart in brick and mortar. It's got this cozy vibe, wooden tables I sanded myself, a big old-fashioned oven I hunted down at an auction, and a little chalkboard out front where I scribbled the day's specials. Every penny I poured into this place came from years of skipped vacations, second-hand clothes, and saying no to nights out with friends. I'd close my eyes at night and see it, my own bakery, my name on the sign, a place where people could come for a warm croissant and a bit of peace. And last year, I did it. I signed the lease, flipped the open sign, and watched my first customer walk through the door. It felt like I'd made it, like all those early mornings kneading dough in someone else's kitchen had finally paid off. I'd stand behind the counter, flour on my apron, watching folks bite into a muffin or sip coffee and think, this is mine, I built this. But here's the thing about dreams. They've got a way of drawing out the people who want a piece of them without lifting a finger, and for me, that person was my little brother Liam. Liam's 30 now, 4 years younger than me, and let's just say he's the kind of guy who thinks life owes him a favor. Growing up, he was always the charming one, the kid who could talk his way out of chores while I was stuck scrubbing dishes. I didn't mind back then. He was my brother and I loved him. But as we got older, I started seeing the pattern. I'd work my tail off, whether it was studying for exams or picking up extra shifts, while Liam coasted by, expecting everyone else to pick up the slack. He'd bounce from job to job, usually quitting after a few weeks because the boss didn't get him or it wasn't his vibe. Meanwhile, I was out here grinding, saving every dime for Sweet Haven. So when I finally opened the bakery, I thought maybe, just maybe, my family would be proud. Mom and Dad came by on opening day, all smiles snapping pictures of the display case. Liam even showed up, late as usual, scarfing down a free cinnamon roll and saying, "Not bad, sis." I figured that was that. A little support, a little celebration, and I'd get to enjoy what I'd built. But I should have known better, because less than a month later, Liam walked into my shop with this look in his eye, the kind that says trouble's coming. And what he said next? It turned my dream into a nightmare faster than you can burn a batch of cookies. "Emma," he said, leaning on my counter like he owned the place, "we need to talk about this bakery. It's not fair you've got all this to yourself." And that, folks, was the moment I realized my family wasn't just here to cheer me on. They were about to try and take it all away. So there I was, standing behind the counter of Sweet Haven, wiping flour off my hands when Liam dropped his bombshell. "It's not fair you've got all this to yourself," he said, like my bakery was some kind of community potluck he could just dip into. I blinked at him, thinking I must have heard wrong. "What are you talking about, Liam?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady even though my stomach was already twisting. He smirked, that cocky little smirk he's had since we were kids, and said, "Come on, Emma. You've got this big place, making money, while I'm stuck crashing on friends' couches. I'm your brother. We should be partners in this." Partners? I almost laughed. The guy who couldn't hold a job selling phone cases for more than a month wanted to be my partner? "Liam," I said, crossing my arms, "this isn't some side hustle we dreamed up together. I spent 10 years, working my ass off for this. You didn't put in a single dime or a single hour. This is mine." He rolled his eyes like I was being dramatic and leaned closer. "Family's supposed to share, Emma. You're doing great, and I'm struggling. Don't be selfish. Selfish. That word hit me like a slap. I'd heard it before, usually from Mom or Dad whenever Liam needed bailing out and I hesitated. But this was next level. Before I could even respond, he kept going. I've got ideas, you know. I could help run this place, bring in customers, make it a real family business. I stared at him, picturing Liam running my bakery, probably eating half the inventory and charming customers into freebies while I did all the work. No, I said flatly. You can come by, grab a coffee, whatever, but this is my shop, end of story. I thought that'd be it, you know, a dumb request, a quick no, and he'd sulk off like usual. But oh no, Liam had other plans. A couple days later, I got a call from Mom. Emma, honey, she started, her voice all soft and coaxing. Liam told us about the bakery. He's really upset. He just wants to feel included. Included? I gripped the phone tighter. Mom, he didn't ask to be included. He asked to own half my business for doing nothing. That's not how this works. She sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. Sweetie, you're doing so well. Those fancy cakes you make, all those online orders. Liam's had a rough go lately. Family helps family, right? Then Dad got on the line, his tone gruffer. Emma, we've talked it over. Liam's got a point. You've got more than enough space there. Let him move into the back room, help out a little. It'd be good for him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The back room, my storage space where I kept supplies and crashed on late nights, wasn't some spare bedroom for my deadbeat brother? Dad, I said, my voice shaking now. I built Sweet Haven with my money, my sweat. Liam's struggling because he quits every job he gets. I'm not handing over my dream because he won't grow up. That's when it got ugly. Mom started with the guilt trip. We didn't raise you to be so cold, Emma. Dad jumped in. You've always been the responsible one. That's why you should help him. And then Liam texted me later that night. You're seriously gonna pick a stupid bakery over your own brother? Wait till I tell everyone what a selfish bitch you are. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling this mix of rage and hurt bubbling up. My whole life I'd been the good kid, the one who didn't need hand-holding. So why was it suddenly my job to fix Liam's mess? Things escalated fast. A week later, I walked into Sweet Haven to find Liam, Mom, and Dad standing there like they owned the place. Liam had this smug grin, holding a stack of papers. We've been thinking, he said. You're not going to share willingly, so we're making it official. I'm moving in and we're partners now, whether you like it or not. Mom nodded, all teary-eyed. It's for the best, Emma. He needs stability. Dad crossed his arms. You're either with us on this or you're out of the family. Your choice. I felt my heart pounding in my chest. Out of the family? I repeated, my voice cracking. You're seriously threatening me over this? Over my bakery? Liam shrugged. You've got plenty. Stop hogging it. I looked at them. Mom with her fake tears, Dad with his stern glare, Liam acting like he'd already won. And something snapped. This is my shop, I said, pointing at the floor. My name's on the lease, my money paid for every damn thing in here. You don't get to waltz in and take it. Get out. They didn't budge. Dad stepped closer. We're not asking, Emma. We're telling you. Liam's moving in tomorrow. Be reasonable. Reasonable. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and started dialing. Fine, I said. If you won't leave, I'll call the cops and have you trespassed. This ends now. Mom gasped like I'd stabbed her. You'd call the police on your own family? Liam laughed bitterly. Go ahead, sis. You'll regret it. As they stormed out, Dad yelled back, if you push us away. Don't come crying when you're all alone. I stood there, staring at the empty shop, the smell of burnt sugar still lingering from a batch I'd forgotten in the oven. Alone. I'd been alone in this fight from the start, but what came next was worse than I could have imagined. They weren't just going to guilt me into giving up. They were about to try and steal it all. So there I was, thinking I'd drawn a line in the sand with Liam and my parents, hoping they'd back off after I threatened to call the cops. But nope. Turns out they weren't just blowing smoke. A few days later, I showed up at Sweet Haven to open up, same as always, only to find the front door lock had been changed. My key wouldn't turn. I stood there, heart racing, jiggling it like an idiot, until I heard footsteps behind me. It was Liam, twirling a new keyring like he'd won the lottery. "Morning, sis," he said, grinning. "Welcome to our bakery." I felt my blood run cold. "What the hell did you do?" I snapped, snatching at the keys. He pulled back, laughing. "Relax, Emma. Mom and Dad hired a locksmith yesterday. We're moving in." "Well, I am. You can still run the place, but it's ours now." I couldn't even process it. "Ours? You broke into my shop." He shrugged, like it was no big deal. "Family property, right? They said they helped you pay for it, so I've got a claim." That was a lie. A straight-up, bull-faced lie. Every cent for Sweet Haven came from my savings, my overtime, my hustle. But before I could argue, a truck pulled up and out stepped Mom and Dad with a couple boxes of Liam's junk. Clothes, a gaming console, some ratty old couch cushions. "Emma," Mom said, all weepy, "don't make this harder than it needs to be. Liam needs a fresh start." Dad nodded, arms crossed. "We're doing this for his future. You'll thank us later." Thank them? I was shaking, furious, watching them haul Liam's crap into my storage room like it was their God-given right. "This is illegal," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm calling the police right now." Liam smirked. "Go ahead. We've got proof we belong here." Proof? That's when Dad handed me a crumpled piece of paper. A fake agreement, claiming they'd chipped in half the startup cash for Sweet Haven. It was scribbled in pen, dated years back, with their signatures. A total fabrication. I didn't wait for them to unpack another box. I dialed 999, voice trembling as I explained, "Someone's trying to break into my business." The cops showed up fast, 2 officers who looked as confused as I felt. Liam played it cool, showing them the fake paper, saying, "See, we're co-owners, she's just mad." But I had my ace, the real paperwork. I ran to my car, grabbed my lease, bank statements, receipts, everything proving Sweet Haven was mine alone. The officer skimmed it, then turned to Liam. "Sir, this doesn't add up. You need to leave until this is sorted legally." They escorted him out, Mom crying, Dad muttering about ungrateful kids. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, I got served papers. Liam was suing me for partial ownership of Sweet Haven. The claim? That Mom and Dad had loaned me money to start it, which I'd promised to share with him. It was insane. I sat in my tiny apartment above the bakery, staring at the lawsuit, feeling like my whole world was crumbling. They'd even convinced a shady notary to backdate some nonsense document. I called my friend Rachel Kim, a lawyer I'd met years ago at a baking expo. "Emma," she said, flipping through the papers, "this is a mess, but it's a weak mess. They've got no evidence that holds up. We're fighting this and we're hitting back hard." The next few weeks were a blur. Rachel dug into my finances, every pay stub from my old restaurant gigs, every deposit I'd scraped together, every invoice for the oven and tables. It was airtight. Meanwhile, Liam and my parents doubled down. They showed up at the courthouse on the hearing day, all dressed up like they were the victims. Liam took the stand, spinning this sob story. "My sister's always been the golden child. I just wanted a piece of the family dream." Mom dabbed her eyes, saying, "We gave her thousands to start that bakery, our retirement savings." Dad backed her up. "She owes us." I sat there, jaw clenched, as Rachel tore it apart. She presented my bank records. 0 deposits from Mom or Dad, just my slow, steady savings. She showed photos of me building the place solo, receipts for every nail and light bulb. Then she dropped the hammer. "Your Honor, Not only is this claim baseless, but we have proof the plaintiffs falsified documents. That agreement they submitted, the ink still fresh, tested by a forensic expert. This is fraud. The judge's face darkened. Liam started sweating. Mom whispered something to Dad, who just stared at the floor. But Rachel wasn't done. "There's more," she said. "We've uncovered that Mr. and Mrs. Carter took out a second mortgage on their house to fund this lawsuit. Money they claimed came from investors. They're risking their entire retirement on this lie." The courtroom went dead quiet. The judge leaned forward. "Is this true?" she asked Liam's lawyer, who stammered, "Your Honor, the source of funds isn't—" "It is when it's fraud," Rachel cut in. "They've manipulated their own finances to bully my client." The ruling came fast. "Case dismissed with prejudice," the judge said, her voice like steel. "I'm referring this to the DA for possible perjury and fraud charges. This court doesn't tolerate games." Liam bolted from his seat, Mom chasing after him, but Dad stayed put, head in his hands. Outside, he caught me before I left. "Emma," he croaked, "we didn't know Liam made up that paper. He said it was legit. We're gonna lose the house." I looked at him, the man who threatened to disown me, now small and broken. "You chose to believe him, Dad," I said, "not me." I drove back to Sweet Haven that night, the victory bittersweet. I'd won, sure, but my family was imploding. Liam had dragged Mom and Dad down with him, and they'd let him. I locked up the shop, staring at the sign, my sign, and swore I'd never let anyone take it again. But the story wasn't over. Oh no, Liam had one more card to play, and it was about to blow up in his face. Winning that courtroom battle felt like I'd dodged a bullet, but the aftermath? It was more like stepping into a minefield. I drove back to Sweet Haven that night, hands still shaky from the adrenaline, and just sat there in the dark, staring at my little bakery. The sign out front glowed softly. My name, my dream, still mine. I'd fought off Liam and my parents, kept what I'd built, but it didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like I'd lost something else. My family, or whatever was left of it. The next few days were chaos. Mom called nonstop, leaving voicemails that went from tearful pleas, "Emma, how could you do this to us?" to angry rants, "You've ruined your brother's life." Dad didn't say a word, which was worse somehow. And Liam, he vanished. No texts, no calls, nothing. I heard through a cousin that he'd packed a bag and peeled out of town in his beat-up old car, leaving Mom and Dad to deal with the wreckage. Turns out Rachel was right about that second mortgage. They'd borrowed against their house to pay Liam's shady lawyer, thinking they'd cash in when they won Sweet Haven. Now, with the case trashed and legal fees piling up, they were screwed. A month later, I stopped by their place. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to know how bad it was. The house I'd grown up in had a "for sale" sign stabbed into the front yard. Mom answered the door, eyes red, and Dad was slumped on the couch, staring at a stack of bills. "We're selling," she said, voice flat. "Bank's taking it unless we pay up fast." I stood there, feeling this weird mix of pity and anger. "You didn't have to do this," I said. "You chose Liam's lies over me." Dad finally looked up. "He swore he'd pay us back once he got the bakery. We trusted him." Trusted him? Not me, the daughter who'd never asked them for a dime. I left without another word, promising myself I was done bailing them out. Life went quiet after that. I threw myself into Sweet Haven, baking bread, decorating cakes, chatting with regulars who had no clue about the war I'd just fought. Mom and Dad moved into a cramped apartment across town, and I didn't visit. It wasn't coldness, it was survival. Then, 6 months after the courtroom night, my phone buzzed late one night. Liam's name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity, or maybe exhaustion, won out. "Emma," he said, voice rough. "I need help. I'm being evicted. Got 48 hours to get out." I sat there, gripping the phone, waiting for the sob story. "What happened?" I asked, keeping it short. He sighed, long and dramatic. Lost my job, couldn't pay rent. I've been crashing in this dumpy studio, but they're kicking me out. I've got nowhere to go, sis. Like we were still buddies. Why call me? I said. You've got Mom and Dad, he laughed, bitter, though they broke because of me. Said I'm on my own, but you've got that big bakery, all that space. Let me crash there, just for a bit. I nearly dropped the phone. After everything, suing me, faking papers, breaking into my shop, he had the guts to ask for a handout? No, I said, cold as ice. You don't get to waltz back in and mooch off me. Figure it out. He got mad fast. You're seriously gonna let your own brother end up on the street? You've got that whole back room empty while I'm begging here. I took a deep breath, remembering Rachel's advice about boundaries. Liam, I said, you made your mess. I'm not cleaning it up. Call a shelter, get a job. I'm done. He didn't take it well. You're a selfish bitch, he spat, sitting pretty in your little kingdom while I've got nothing. Hope you're happy when I'm homeless. Then he hung up. I stared at the phone, half expecting the guilt to hit me like it always had, but this time, nothing. Just relief. I texted Mom and Dad the next day, not to vent, but to set the record straight. Liam called, asked to move into Sweet Haven. I said no. If he calls you, don't cave, Mom replied. We won't. We're learning. Learning? That was new. A week later, Dad showed up at the bakery alone. He looked older, worn down, holding a folder. We found this, he said, handing it over. Inside were papers, contact info for shelters, job programs, even a counselor's number. We're sending it to Liam, he said. No money, no couch, just help he's got to take himself. Is that okay? I nodded, surprised. Yeah, Dad, that's perfect. He gave me this small, sad smile. We messed up, Emma. With him, with you, we're trying to fix it. I watched him leave, feeling something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a crack in the wall we'd built. Liam got the email, I found out later, and fired back one line. I don't need your pity. Typical. I figured that was the last I'd hear from him for a while. But oh man, was I wrong? 6 months later, he'd come crawling back, and not just with a sob story, but with something I never saw coming. This fight was far from over. So, 6 months passed after Liam's desperate call, and life started feeling normal again. Sweet Haven was buzzing, holiday orders were rolling in, and I'd even hired a part-time helper to keep up. Mom and Dad were settling into their new apartment, and we'd started talking more. Small stuff at first. Recipes, weather, nothing heavy. They'd stuck to their word about Liam, no handouts, just resources, and I respected that. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I figured Liam was off somewhere, sulking or scamming someone new, until one Sunday afternoon when he walked back into my bakery like a ghost from the past. He looked different, thinner, scruffier, no more flashy sneakers or that cocky grin. He slid into a chair by the window, hands wrapped around a coffee I didn't offer him. Emma, he said, voice low, I've messed up. A lot. I'm here to make it right. I stood behind the counter, arms crossed, waiting for the catch. Make it right how? I asked. He took a deep breath. I hit bottom, lived in a shelter in Ohio for a while. They had this program, job training, therapy, the works. I've got a gig now, warehouse stuff, and a crappy little place. I'm not asking for anything, just a chance to fix us. I didn't say a word, just watched him. No tears, no guilt trips. That was new. Why now? I pressed. He shrugged. Lost everything, had to face myself. I was jealous, Emma. You built this. He waved at the bakery, and I wanted it without the work. I'm sorry. Sorry from Liam felt like a foreign language. I didn't trust it, but I didn't kick him out either. Prove it, I said. Words don't mean squat. Show me. He nodded, like he expected that, and left without pushing. Over the next few months he did show up, not for me, but for Mom and Dad. He'd stop by their place, fix a leaky faucet, bring groceries they didn't ask for. He even tracked down his ex, Mia, and started supervised visits with his 2 kids, my niece and nephew, who I hadn't seen in years. I heard it from Mom first. He's trying, Emma, really trying. I stayed skeptical, but when he asked to meet the kids at Sweet Haven one day, I said yes. They ran in, all giggles and sticky fingers, grabbing cookies while Liam watched, quiet. Thanks for this, he said. Means a lot. I just nodded, still waiting for the other shoe to drop. Summer hit, and things got weirdly good. I threw a barbecue out back of the bakery. Nothing fancy, just a grill, some burgers, a little garden patch the kids and I had planted with herbs and veggies. Mom and Dad came, looking lighter than they had in years. Liam showed up too, no drama, just flipping patties and joking with the kids. We weren't a Hallmark card family, but it felt like something was healing. I started thinking maybe, just maybe, he'd turned a corner. Then came the twist that flipped it all upside down. One morning I was scrolling through YouTube, sipping coffee before opening, when a thumbnail stopped me cold. It was Sweet Haven. My sign, my front window, in some clickbait video titled Family Betrayal, the Bakery Heist That Broke Us. My stomach dropped. I clicked, and there it was, grainy footage of my shop. Voiceovers about a sister's greed and a brother's fight for justice. Then Liam's face popped up, talking to the camera. She took everything. Our family's dream. I'm rebuilding, but she's still got it all. My hands shook as I watched. He'd filmed us. The barbecue, the kids, even me behind the counter, secretly, splicing it with old clips from his lawsuit days. I dug deeper. The channel was some drama vulture, racking up views with sob stories. Liam's name was all over the comments. Thanks for the footage, man. Pays good. He'd sold our story, my story, for cash, twisting it into a soap opera lie. I called him, furious. What the hell is this, Liam? He picked up, sounding caught. Emma, Don't. I cut him off. You filmed us, sold us out. For what, a couple bucks? He fumbled. I needed money to start over. It's not personal. Not personal. I laughed, bitter. You used my bakery, my life, again. You haven't changed. He got defensive. I'm trying to survive. You've got everything. I've got nothing. I hung up. Done. I marched to Mom and Dad's that night, showed them the video. Mom cried. Dad cursed under his breath. We thought he was different, Dad said. He fooled us again. I shook my head. Not this time. We're cutting him off for good. They didn't argue. We blocked his number, told Mia to keep the kids away. I even sent a takedown notice to YouTube. Rachel said it'd work since he'd filmed me without consent. A week later, I was pruning the garden out back when Mia pulled up with the kids. Liam's gone, she said. Took off after the video got pulled. Said he's done with this town. The kids hugged me, oblivious, and I felt this pang. Sad for them, not him. You're welcome here any time, I told Mia. She smiled. They'd love that. You're the steady one they need. That night, I sat in Sweet Haven, lights off, staring at the garden. Liam had tried to take it all again, not with a lawsuit this time, but with a camera. And he'd lost, again. I thought about calling him, giving him one last piece of my mind. But why? He'd hear silence instead. I pulled up pics from the barbecue, me and the kids planting basil, Mom laughing with Mia, and sent them to my parents. This is us now, I wrote. He doesn't get to ruin it. Mom texted back. You're right. We're done chasing him. As I locked up, I realized Sweet Haven wasn't just a bakery anymore. It was my line in the sand, proof I could stand up and build something real, even when family tried to tear it down. So here I am, sitting in Sweet Haven after everything, The lawsuits, the lies, that gut punch of a twist with Liam's secret videos. It's late, the ovens are cooling, and I'm out back by the little garden the kids and I planted. Those basil plants are thriving now, poking up through the soil like a quiet victory. I look at them and think about what this place means. Not just a bakery, but a fight I won, a life I carved out despite everything my own family threw at me. Liam's gone again, off to who knows where after his YouTube scheme crashed. Mom and Dad are finally seeing him for what he is, not a victim but a choice. They don't have to keep making me. I've got Mia and the kids coming by tomorrow. They want to bake cookies, make a mess, laugh a little. That's the family I'm building now, not the one I was born into. Sometimes you've got to let the old stuff break apart to grow something better. Sweet Haven taught me that. It's not just about keeping what's yours. It's about knowing who's worth letting in. So here's my 2 cents for you. Don't let anyone guilt you into giving up your dreams. Not family, not anyone. If they can't respect what you've built, they don't deserve a seat at your table. I've fought for this place and I'd do it again. What about you? What do you think of Liam? Does he deserve another shot, or is he done for good? Drop your thoughts below. I read everyone. Hit that like button if you're with me and subscribe if you want more stories like this. Thanks for sticking around. See you next time.